Hi, I'm Ollie, and in this Politics Explained video, I'm going to give you an introduction to regionalism in A Level Politics. I'm going to start by looking at the parts of the specification this video covers, and some key 12 markers and 30 markers you get asked on this topic in the exam. From there, I'm going to first look at what regionalism is, and its development in the 21st century, before giving you an introduction to economic regionalism, security regionalism, and political regionalism. The notes you can see on your screen are part of an updated textbook on the Global Politics section of the Edexcel A Level Politics course that you can purchase on the Politics Explained website, where you can also find loads of other resources to help you in your Politics A Level, including essay plans and updated textbooks covering every single part of the course, including detailed 30 marker plans and 12 marker plans for global politics, and a place to sign up for tutoring and some live revision webinars we're doing before this year's exams, if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So this is the fifth out of 6 subtopics on the global politics section of the course. We've already done kind of loads of videos on the first 4 subtopics, so make sure to have a look at those as well. But this final topic is regionalism and the EU. And this first video is really going to give more of an introduction to regionalism, its growth, its different forms, including economic, security, and political. So in terms of looking at these kind of potential questions, 12 markers and 30 markers, these ones all cover kind of the whole of the regionalism and the EU topic. And it's of course going to be really useful looking at the differences between economic and political regionalism, and economic and security regionalism, and some of these later questions as well, but especially the earlier ones. But you're of course going to need to watch future videos and bring in your other knowledge of specific regional organisations to bring a bit of specific detail to them as well. Exactly the same applies to these 30 markers. So understanding regionalism is going to be really important to being able to answer them. But of course, you're going to need to bring in some more specific detail from the future videos and the content on the different regional organisations, including the EU, but also ASEAN, the African Union, the Arab League as well, that we're going to cover in future videos. Starting off though with a look at what regionalism is. So regionalism is when states within a specific geographic area come together to form alliances and organisations to achieve common goals and address shared challenges. So of course the shared geographic area is the region, and by working collectively they aim to enhance stability, economic development and political influence on the global stage. And the idea is that together, by coming together in a bloc, they can have much more influence than they would have as countries on their own. Regionalism is arguably more important than it's ever been in the current world order. So the increasing dominance of global powers like the US and China means that smaller and medium-sized countries often find it challenging to kind of project and assert and protect their interests on the world stage. And regionalism offers a way for these countries to build stronger coalitions, enhance their collective voice on the global stage, and therefore protect their interests better in the globalised economy. Because if you put their economies together, they have a much bigger economy to kind of have influence within global trade negotiations and therefore protect their interests. So then, what are the key regional organisations? First key one that you'll of course know is the European Union. It's one of the most advanced examples of regionalism, evolving from its earlier forms, the European Economic Community and the European Coal and Steel Community, established in the 50s. It initially focused only on economic cooperation, but has expanded into political and social union to prevent conflict in Europe and increase member states' influence on the global stage. Its shared political and economic policies give it significant power in global trade and diplomatic discussions. And of course, we'll look in way more detail in a couple of videos at the European Union. The African Union was founded in 2002, and it aims to strengthen unity among African countries, promote peace and security, and drive economic growth across the continent. It reflects Africa's aspirations to prevent exploitation and marginalisation in the global order by providing a united front against external pressures. Whilst it also helps kind of development strategies and regional conflicts in Africa for countries. ASEAN was established in 1967, and it seeks to enhance economic growth, promote cultural exchange, and foster political stability within Southeast Asia. Its growth reflects the importance of regional solidarity and regionalism in countering the influence of China and the United States, with Southeast Asia being a real flashpoint of that competition in the global order. So members are committed to the principles of non-interference, and it promotes a shared approach to economic development and regional security, helping members negotiate more effectively in the global economy especially. Originally founded as NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, in 1994, the agreement was restructured as the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement in 2020 to reflect modern trade concerns, particularly from Donald Trump. The arrangement provides a framework for economic cooperation and free trade among North American countries, allowing them to compete globally by leveraging their collective economic strengths. In a world order where global supply chains are vulnerable to external pressures, regional agreements like the US MCA enable these countries to maintain a degree of economic independence. Of course, it's not a political union in the same way that some of these others are, though. So the key ones we're really going to look at are ASEAN, the EU, the African Union, I forgot one, the European Union, the African Union, ASEAN, and the Arab League. Mercosur is also one, which is a South American trade bloc. That's not really mentioned in the spec, but I thought I'd just let you know that there is also a regional organisation in South America as well. Finally, then, the Arab League was founded in 1945, and it's one of the oldest regional organisations in the world, originally created to promote political and economic cooperation among Arab states. It aims to strengthen unity within the Arab world, support regional development, and address issues impacting Arab countries, such as Palestinian statehood, which they all support, and regional conflicts. Although the Arab League's influence varies across members, it continues to provide a platform for dialogue on key political issues and regional security concerns. And again, with the Arab League, we'll look at it in way more detail in a future video as well. So then, first looking at the different types of regionalism. The first one is economic regionalism, which refers to the collaboration between countries within a geographic region to achieve economic goals. So by forming alliances and creating larger markets together, states can attract foreign investment, increase trade, and boost economic growth. For smaller economies, economic regionalism allows protection from the risks of globalization as well, allowing them to negotiate with countries like the US or China as part of a bloc together, where they have a lot more economic power rather than being a lot more vulnerable on their own, where they perhaps wouldn't have been able to negotiate such favourable trade terms. So economic regionalism can include free trade agreements, customs unions, and common markets, each representing a different degree of economic integration. Some organisations like the EU have adopted a high degree of economic integration, including a single currency, the euro, that's shared between a lot of EU countries and shared regulations, whilst others like ASEAN maintain looser ties, primarily focusing on reducing trade barriers, standardising regulations, and kind of acting together in trade negotiations. Security regionalism involves collaboration to address shared security concerns and maintain stability. And its motivation often stems from geographic proximity to other countries, where they seek to prevent conflict and protect against kind of shared enemies, particularly in their region. It's grown in importance in the 21st century due to the interconnected nature of modern security challenges, such as terrorism, transnational crime, and cyber threats, which can really kind of very quickly move across borders in a way that security challenges potentially didn't previously. And security partnerships allow them to protect their sovereignty whilst balancing the influence of global powers. And these alliances can range from loose agreements on mutual defence to highly integrated military partnerships with shared strategies, such as NATO. So NATO, although it includes members from outside a strictly defined geographical region, is mainly European. But you also, of course, have the United States and Canada. And it's really designed to counter the Soviet Union's influence in Europe by establishing a system of mutual defence. You also have the African Union's Peace and Security Council, which is a prime example of security regionalism in Africa, aimed to prevent conflicts and manage peacekeeping operations across the continent, responding to regional crises such as civil wars and insurgencies, with the idea of course, bringing peace, but also preventing them from having a negative influence on neighbouring countries. You also have ASEAN's Regional Forum, which brings together ASEAN members to discuss security concerns in the Asia-Pacific. And although they avoid a formal military alliance, it facilitates diplomatic engagement on issues like territorial disputes in the South China Sea. Finally, then, is political regionalism, which refers to the cooperation between states to achieve shared political goals and establish a stronger collective presence in global politics. So economic especially, but also security concerns really drive regionalism. Political motivations are also important though, and often come afterwards. And it allows countries to enhance their influence in the global arena by acting as a bloc, to assert their shared values and interests on the global stage, and try and counterbalance the influence of dominant states such as China and the United States. Crucially, it operates across a spectrum. That's really important to understand and bring into your essays, particularly for political regionalism. with intergovernmentalism being the weakest level of political cooperation and federalism being kind of the deepest level, strongest level of political cooperation. So intergovernmentalism is in most regional organisations like ASEAN and the Arab League, where decisions are made by consensus and member states retain full sovereignty. So if one member state doesn't support a decision, they can veto it and it doesn't happen. So these organisations facilitate political dialogue and collaboration, but they don't diminish national sovereignty at all. The next one is supranationalism. And the EU is a really good example of this, where member states agree to transfer some sovereignty to a central body that makes binding decisions on behalf of the region. So there is some giving up national sovereignty because every state can't veto any decision. So supranational institutions allow for deeper political integration, making it possible to implement policies across member states and establish a unified stance on global issues. And then there's federalism. So no regional organisation currently operates as a true federal system, which is the deepest level of regionalism, where member states would function almost as provinces within a single country, a centralised political entity. And the central authority holds the power to make laws and govern, whilst member states retain limited autonomy over some areas. The United States, for example, is an element of federalism that you don't see in regional organisations. In terms of the structure of current regional organisations, so the European Union is largely supranational, with some elements resembling federalism, but it's also some elements, areas representing intergovernmentalism as well, actually, as we'll look at in the video on the EU. But it does represent the highest degree of political regionalism globally, having evolved from an economic community to a supranational body. So it integrates members' political agendas through institutions like the European Parliament and the European Commission, which make binding decisions across multiple policy areas. So it's not fully federal and not fully supranational, with some decision-making powers transferred to the EU, but some kept by member states as well. African Union is primarily intergovernmental with some supranationalism. And the supranational elements are particularly in security regionalism within its Peace and Security Council and the African Court on Human and People's Rights. So although member states retain almost complete sovereignty, it serves as a political platform encouraging countries to adopt shared political goals. ASEAN and the Arab League are completely intergovernmental. So member states retain complete national sovereignty, can veto any decision, and it's simply countries coming together to cooperate when they all agree, which they often do on economic matters, for example, on free trade agreements, because they're really in all of their shared interests and they can therefore come to agreement without one country vetoing it. So yeah, that was one of the shorter videos on the global politics section, giving you an introduction to regionalism. The next 4 videos on the channel are going to look in depth in more regionalism. One on regional organisations excluding the EU, looking at ASEAN, the African Union and the Arab League. I'm going to have then 2 on the European Union, before finally having one looking at the debates surrounding regionalism, which is 5.2 on the spec, as you can see here, but I think is, oh sorry, it's not here, but it's 5.2 on the spec, but some of it's here. I think it's more useful to bring after going through and understanding all of the content and the specifics of regional organisations. Let me know if you've got any comments or questions in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.